Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Mornings with Mando, where I'm just going to be going over some of the news that we have going on today in the great state of Texas. So sit back, enjoy your ride to work, or enjoy your cup of coffee this morning, and I got it from here. All right, one of the first stories we have coming down the line is the Operation Lone Star. For anybody who doesn't know what Operation Lone Star, it is a program that Governor Abbott put in place in order to curb some of the migrant overflow that we seem to be getting, that we are getting. And there has been some criticism that goes underneath it that talks about how some soldiers think that it is just a show, because all it's doing is making people, instead of crossing in one particular area, just going a ways down and crossing in another area at pretty large numbers. The governor brags a little bit about some of its success. According to some of these reports that I'm looking at, those might be a little bit exaggerated. Talks about how he's stopped over 400 million doses of fentanyl coming over the border, and that he has stopped almost 500,000 migrants from coming over, which, I mean, yes, that is quite a large number, but when we're talking that we have a $3 million person backlog for people who are seeking asylum, that's not quite as good as you would want it to be. And they're talking about, some of the soldiers kind of criticize it a little bit for being a huge waste of money on where they put some of the razor wire on their fences. And there's some stories that kind of come across where it's talking about how some landowners are not in support of that, but I don't necessarily know the validity in any of that. I think that a lot of these people are putting up this razor wire on their own property, on their own fruition, because it's a pretty serious issue that's going on right now, and I don't think that it's just something that's... I think that Operation Lone Star may have been a little bit more of a political move than anything else. But it seems to be not having the success that Governor Abbott wanted it to have. So, I don't know. I personally believe that if you're coming into this country, you should have some sort of skill or something to give to the country. You should have something that you're trying to offer to it. If you're willing to work, if you're willing to be doing stuff like that, bring some value to this country. Don't just be somebody who comes in and freeloads. I don't think that's that big of a request. If you're truly seeking asylum and you're actually coming from some pretty abhorrent circumstances, I will also try to ignore the fact that we tend to create a lot of those abhorrent circumstances in the countries that these people are fleeing. But they seem to actually find that most of the people coming up through the Mexico border are not actually Mexicans. It's a lot of people from the Middle East, and there is also a untalked about migration of Chinese immigrants that are coming through here. There was a little bit of a sneak peek of that on a Joe Rogan episode where Brett Weinstein actually talked about this a little bit, because he went down to the border to check some stuff out and ended up finding that a lot of the migrants are from the Middle East, but there is a large amount of them that are coming from China. And there's most of the people he tried to talk to conversed with him, explained some of their stories, and talked to them about the struggles and why they were actually trying to come across our border. And then when he got to some of these Chinese migrants, they were less than cordial. And the way he described it was that they were actually putting on a defensive front. They had no desire to discuss any of the reasons why they were coming across or anything like that. So I don't know quite what that means. Personally, it alarms me a little bit, but what's the point of stressing out about stuff that I have no control over? This is why I came to Texas, so that way hopefully some of you keep me a little bit safe when all the shit hits the fan. Another story that we got coming down the pipe is SpaceX files to relocate to Texas after Elon Musk spat with Delaware over pay package. Now, this will be a little bit of, let me lay out a little bit of how this goes. Technically speaking, Elon Musk does not get a salary from SpaceX or from Tesla or any of that. He doesn't get a salary. So what ends up happening is he gets incentives and benchmarks that the shareholders hold him to that, hey, you have to hit these and this is the incentive packages that you get, or something in that manner. Well, there was a board that was appointed that Musk apparently has some pretty convenient ties to, including but not limited to the fact that his own brother's on this board. And they were deciding that the amount of money that Elon Musk should be allowed to receive from this pay package was $55 billion. Well, the state of Delaware decided to block that and say that, no, that's too much. And even one of the shareholders put forth a lawsuit towards Elon to tell him that that is an insane number to be putting forward. Now, I'm a little bit torn. These shareholders probably made and will continue to make far greater than that amount, but and they probably wouldn't have done that without Elon's guidance and him leading that company. But yeah, I think that this might just this feels a little bit showy to me, I guess. I don't know. Certain lawsuits, they're more meant to make a statement than anything else. Elon's probably going to be moving his business here to Texas from Delaware. He's already moved his Neuralink from Delaware to Nevada. And he's gone on kind of a little bit of a tirade talking about how you do not put your corporation in Delaware. And that if you are in Delaware, he recommends that you move your business to somewhere else as soon as possible. Now, something that ends up happening with certain places that are a little bit smaller is a lot of these big corporations and a lot of these big companies, they come and they put facilities in the area, and it tends to mess with this is what happened in my home state of Oregon. Facebook goes to Lapine. All of the property values go up, and all the people who have lived in Lapine and throughout their whole lives no longer can afford to live in Lapine. And that is kind of the thing that I just see that happening everywhere. You have big business move into some place, and then all of a sudden all the people who were originally there can slowly realize that they're not going to be able to afford to stay there any longer. And so I think there's some ups and downs that come with that. Time will tell. Time will tell if it'll be good or not. I don't know. Alrighty, and the next story we got coming down the pipe is Texas residents warned after over 100,000 gallons of wastewater spilled. Residents in Houston with private wells near a wastewater treatment site have been urged to only use distilled or boiled water after a structural failure caused domestic sludge to spill out of a holding tank. In a statement on Tuesday, Houston Public Works told people living within a half mile of the Almeda Sims wastewater treatment plant in the City Park neighborhood of southwest Houston, who used private wells for their drinking water, that the supply may be affected by the spill. It advised boiling water for cooking, bathing, and brushing teeth as well, until private well water had been tested and disinfected if necessary. Houston Public Works said that as of 10 a.m., on Tuesday, the estimated volume of released wastewater was more than 100,000 gallons, and a cleanup operation had commenced. However, several local news outlets, citing officials, said around 600,000 gallons had spilled from the tank. Houston Public Works stressed that residents who received their drinking water supply from the city would be unaffected by the spill and did not need to boil water. So just if you're out there on your own little land, drinking out of your own well, don't. Because structural integrity issues made this giant wastewater treatment plant spill out into the local area. And those are always huge projects to end up cleaning up. I actually think something else happened like this over by, where did I read that? I want to say it might have been in Idaho, but that might not be correct. And Idaho also has a bunch of other issues that they're trying to deal with. So the public should avoid contact with waste material, soil, or water in the area potentially affected by the spill. Do not swim in affected areas, officials said. If the public comes into contact with waste material, soil, or water potentially affected by the spill, they should bathe and wash clothes thoroughly as soon as possible. The context of this is the treatment plant was given over $21 million by the city of Houston only 2 years ago to improve inefficient components, but the appropriation did not mention wastewater tanks. As of April 2023, the project was 40% complete. So yes, this treatment plant was given $21 million by the city of Houston 2 years ago to improve the components that need to be improved on. And as of April of 2023, the project was only 40% complete. Treatment workers have begun cleaning an isolated spill area within the treatment plant, and its two tanks remain unaffected by the incident. Wastewater treatment plants collect municipal sewage and remove contaminants before the water is then released into the environment. This leftover material or sludge can be turned into biosolids that are used for fertilizing soil. And so that's the stuff that ended up kind of leaking out and getting into people's private water supplies. The public works spokeswoman told the Houston Chronicle that an emergency assessment was being undertaken to determine how to fix the ruptured tank, but there is no timeline for a permanent solution. Apparently, the whole tank needs to be repaired because it fell apart. The incident on Tuesday could force the city to commit more money to improving the treatment plant. Houston Public Works said that Texas Commission on Environmental Quality had been notified about the wastewater spill. Well, we might be seeing some Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles running around Houston one of these days. Who knows? Who knows? The next story that we're going to be diving into is a vehicle crashed into a Texas emergency room. The driver is dead and 5 were injured, and police say it was not intentional. It doesn't appear to police during their investigation that anybody had a medical episode or that it was an intentional act, but there is an investigation still going on. Crooms identified that the driver as 57-year-old Michelle Holloway. Holloway crashed her vehicle into the emergency room's waiting area, and 3 adults and 2 juveniles were injured and taken to hospitals for treatment. The driver was extracted and given CPR before dying at the scene. Police did not offer any further details on what may have caused the crash and how fast the driver may have been traveling. St. David's of North Austin Medical Center. That was a place that was hit. Hospital staff rallied to help. When the vehicle first crashed into the lobby, it was still in drive, he said. 3 hospital team members put their life in harm's way and stopped the car from running and did their best to preserve life for that driver. The vehicle hit a very large aquarium at the hospital, which likely absorbed the impact and helped save lives, Chief Medical Officer said. So, if you want to help save lives at your hospital, invest in a giant fish tank. One of those that's straight out of Jungle to Jungle, where Mimi Siku was hunting piranhas out of there with like a little fork. At first, I thought it was an explosion. Then I heard screaming and saw smoke coming from the ER. Stephen Hughes was at the hospital waiting for his wife to come out of surgery when he heard a loud bang, then realized a vehicle had crashed into the building. Damage to the building was minor, but the hospital only took emergency room walk-ins Tuesday night as ambulances were directed to other facilities. By Wednesday, the hospital had resumed operations and opened to EMS transportation as of earlier that morning. So that story will continue to envelop, and we'll probably end up bringing you some about that probably tomorrow morning. Next story that we're going to be getting into is a Texas father detained in Russia, sentenced to 21 years in a penal colony despite almost no evidence. A Russian court sentenced a Texas father to 21 years in a penal colony on charges of child abuse Tuesday, despite almost no evidence and multiple U.S. investigations that resulted in no charges. David Barnes, 66, was accused of abusing his 2 sons in 2018 and 2014 by his then-wife, Russian Svetlana Koptevia. I don't know if that's how you say her name. Sounds hot. Police in Houston investigated both allegations at the time and found no reason to file charges. Frankly, I'm horrified, Barnes' defense attorney said. Gleb Glinka told ABC News outside of the courthouse. There was almost no evidence that the court could base that verdict on. The ex-wife is alleged to have illegally taken her and Barnes' children out of the U.S. in the midst of a custody dispute in 2019. Interpol then declared both sons missing and the U.S. transferred custody rights to Barnes, though that could not be enforced because the children were taken to Russia. Montgomery County prosecutors also charged Koptieva with felony interference with child custody and issued a warrant for her arrest. I do know that everyone that heard and investigated the child sexual abuse allegations raised by Mrs. Barnes during the child custody proceedings did not find them to be credible. So Mr. Barnes was being accused of molesting his kids. Mrs. Barnes' interference with the child custody case is still pending, and a warrant for her is still active. So then end up David Barnes' ex-wife is charged with interfering with a custody dispute, illegally taking her children from the U.S. to Russia. Barnes has been detained in Russia since January of 2022, when his family said he traveled there to see his children and apply for visitation rights, according to ABC. Koptieva once again raised the abuse allegations soon after Barnes' arrival. Russian authorities say they investigated the claims, though Montgomery authorities reportedly say they were never contacted by Russian officials about the issue. Man, Russia does not fuck around. Crazy lady. Yeah, not as hot as you would think. Mrs. Barnes, not worth it. So yeah, we're going to end up probably covering the story a little bit more as it goes on. The State Department did not immediately respond to the request for comment. Yeah. Barnes is one of several U.S. citizens currently being detained in Russia alongside journalist Evan Gershkovich and U.S. Marine Paul Whelan. Unlike the latter two, however, President Biden's administration at this point has not declared Barnes to be wrongfully detained. Yeah, but we still ended up trading Brittany Griner for that U.S. Marine Paul Whelan. Thank God. Female basketball going underway again. Oh, man. All right. When we come back, we're going to get to some good news around the world. Alrighty, people. You know who I am, and you know what I like to do at the end of all these terrible news stories that we have to go down. I enjoy going through some of the positive stories in the world today. And we're just going to read the headlines. That way you guys can have a little bit more of the feeling of it instead of the facts. Family of fallen soldier given keys to a new home. Volunteers in North Carolina built a new home for the family of a fallen soldier. Community rescues dolphin pod. In Digby, Nova Scotia, locals rallied to rescue 16 Atlantic white-sided dolphins that had become beached. All-terrain power wheelchairs, now available at state parks in Georgia, Colorado, and Michigan. These wheelchairs allow people with mobility issues to traverse rocky trails, sandy beaches, and uneven terrain. I'm going to be doing a story on that probably sometime here soon, now knowing that is something where you can start going on hiking trails, seeing handicapped people rolling around out there. Fighting mosquito-borne diseases. The World Mosquito Program, WMP, in Brazil is using the Wolbachia method to reduce disease transmission. They've enlisted school kids to help raise mosquitoes with Wolbachia. Well, unfortunately, we're going to have to look into what the heck that means. Hold on. Where is it? Holy crap, these wheelchairs that have basically tank tires on them. That's kind of insane. All right, for fighting mosquito-borne illnesses. Okay, here we go. Wolbachia is a type of harmless bacteria found in up to half of insect species, and research has shown it helps reduce disease transmission. The project raises mosquitoes with Wolbachia and then releases them into communities where they mate and produce offspring carrying the bacteria. That sounds a little bit fishy. Don't really like how that sounds. This was supposed to be a good story. Now I know that they're breeding mosquitoes. I mean, Bill Gates floated that idea to make mosquitoes that would just deliver vaccinations to people. So, I mean, they're already starting to kind of figure out how to crossbreed them with bacteria that's supposed to keep infectious disease from transmitting. I don't know. That sounds like we're getting some dangerous territory here. That's the start of a new Godzilla movie or one of those 28 weeks later things. In 2022, the WMP's Brazil chapter teamed up with 17 public schools in the central western city of Campo Grande. About 1,600 students were provided with kits to raise an estimated 2.5 million Wolbachia mosquitoes over 16 weeks. The children also learned about proper mosquito safety. It isn't the whole solution, says Luciano Andrade Moreira, who leads WMP operations in Brazil. Along with vaccines and insecticides, Wolbachia mosquitoes are one more tool. Yeah, probably won't be too long until they start manufacturing those to be able to vaccinate the kids anyway. But you know what? Hey, that's just the news that's going on the way it is. Try not to give too much of my opinion. Mostly just trying to lay out what's happening so you guys can kind of form your own opinions and your own thoughts. You know, and if you have anything you want to say about this episode or anything that you disagreed with some of what I was saying or maybe an opinion you want to put forward, go ahead and leave a comment. Don't forget to like and subscribe. It's free and you can change your mind later. All right, everybody. You enjoy the rest of your day and stay breezy.